Welcome back to another episode of the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Hannibal Race, Mudgear Hannibal Race Pro. I'm mixing up my own name. Evan Preparis, and Strength and Speed owner. Joining me, I got William Shell. Will, say hi.
Hey, how's it going, Evan?
Good. Before we get to him, though, a quick word from this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Fat Grips. If you're not familiar with Fat Grips, they're those rubber sleeves that go over barbell and dumbbell handles. Great training for grip that I use. I actually use them year round, but in the off season, they get a ton of use because I end up doing more weight training. So I really like it because you can put it on barbells, dumbbells. Essentially, you can turn every exercise in the gym into a grip exercise. It really helps your grip and helps build that endurance, especially in the off season. That way you can come into 2024 ready to crush it, literally and figuratively. So go head over and check out Fat Grips. There's I think a slim version, a normal version, which are the blue ones, and then there's like the extreme version, which is the red ones. I have the blue and the red, the normal and the extreme. So highly recommend both of them. You will have to drop your weight a little bit when you start putting them on and start using them, but then you kind of adjust to that. And, again, it's working your grip more than it's working some of the other muscles. So check them out at fatgrips.com, or you can head over to the OCRproteam.com website, our newly designed pro team website. All right. We got Will joining us. Will is the owner of Mythic Race, one of the Midwest, honestly, my favorite OCR in the Midwest here. I love it. And recently went to OCRWC. Well, maybe not recently because we've been putting this podcast out for a while. So we're going to be talking primarily about OCRWC in this episode, and then also what's coming up in Mythic Race in their third year. So also Will's a former pro track athlete. So experienced athlete himself, both in the pure running side and then transitioned over into OCR. If you listen to this podcast a while, you've heard him on the podcast before, and I've talked about him a couple times before. So again, Will, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start off with OCRWC. Talk to me about, one, expectations going in, and then kind of two, how those started playing out, right? Because there was some big concern because Spartan essentially bought OCRWC. So there's some trepidation of are they changing all the obstacles? I know that they switched out some of their build crew. They kept a lot of the staff the same, but there was some concerns going in. And I know we were talking behind the scenes before the event. So talk to me about concerns going in and kind of how that played out.
I was a little concerned going in, with changing the ownership. There's always the risk of changes, good or bad. And I knew most of the build crew, so I kind of got a little more behind the scenes about some obstacles they were changing. I just didn't want to go there and wind up being Spartan World Championships instead of OCR World Championships.
Right. And then,
good.
Which events did you end up participating in? Because it's a packed weekend if you're not familiar with OCRWC.
All 5 of them, so it was a long weekend.
Yeah. So take us through kind of each individual event real quick and kind of what you liked about it and what was kind of unique compared to some of the other years.
First of all, if anyone skipped out because they were scared of Spartan, you missed out. It was probably the best OCRWC course I've ever been on. It was really good. There was still all the major obstacles you guys were familiar with at OCRWC. The only real course that was 100% Spartan was the 100-meter, which was not important to me. So if that's kind of your thing, you may be a little disappointed there, but overall it was great. The most runnable mountain course they've had. So I kind of enjoyed that a little more than just the big up and downs. They were kind of smaller climbs throughout. Probably about the same overall elevation as Vermont, but it was more broken up with a lot more running.
Oh, nice. That is nice. I like that better than when it's a pure, just uphill death march.
Yeah, we didn't have the 32 hour long climb at all.
Nice.
The 3K I thought was good. A lot of people said the obstacles were too easy, but I think the 3K should be more about speed over difficulty. So I thought it was a good balance. The 15Ks was probably overall, I'd say about the same as the last Vermont. 15K as far as difficulty was definitely harder than the 3K. A lot of the more challenging obstacles were there. They're spaced out pretty good. The monkey in the middle was added. I think the first time it's been on outside of Spartan, so that was kind of nice to see. Not much else new though, so that was kind of disappointing. Like I said, the 100-meter was all Spartan.
Yeah.
So quite as flashy as it was in the past. I think Olympus was on there and it kind of slowed down the momentum. I think if they add more of their Spartan rigs, they've been just fine.
Yeah. Well, the 100-meter, this is the fourth time we've done it or third time. I get my years confused at this point. But I know
It's
that
the
go for it.
third time here in the United States. They had
Yeah,
the
third
100
time in the
meter.
United States. I can't remember if they had it in England before that.
I think they did 1 year.
I think so too. So they did it they did it at the nuclear race in England. The first time they did it in the US, honestly, I thought that was not good. That was the year where like the bells were the rigs weren't that long, so people were jumping and not doing any obstacles and just like hitting the bell. It was like the running long jump competition.
Yeah, that wasn't
Um,
good.
Last year I thought was really good. It was hard. I did it in the cold and my hands were like I was dying out there. Um, it was like that frozen morning. And then this year, yeah, I obviously favored the Spartan athlete, which I didn't really like to see. But again, I think back to 2 years ago, and it's an improvement over 2 years ago.
Oh
Maybe not
yeah,
as good as last
definitely.
year, but it's definitely an improvement over 2 years ago. So
Yeah, it wasn't the worst.
yes, yeah. And it's good to hear the obstacles. A lot of the classic obstacles from OCRWC or like their unique obstacles were there. Still very similar as far as like one of the things I always appreciate about OCRWC is their obstacles are not like super long or super hard, but it's like a lot of grip. And none of them are really that long. So like if you rest and take a couple minutes to regroup, you typically can get through it if you have that kind of base of grip and upper body strength.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. It wasn't like one or two obstacles that you had to be a ninja to get through. It was all the same. You had to be good at obstacles, but if you took your time, especially in between them, you'd get through them.
Gotcha. And you said the terrain was a lot more runnable. I know there's a little less steep uphills as far as like muddiness and rockiness. Pretty well groomed trails or a lot of rocky footing, etc.
The trails are pretty good, mostly loose gravel. The altitude was a beast, though.
Mm,
Really hard to breathe up there. So that got me the first couple of days.
yeah.
Kind of a change from Vermont. We did get wet. We had to do a dunk wall. It was cold, but it wasn't undue. What's the word I'm working for? It wasn't torture.
Yeah.
I'm pretty skinny and I don't like to be cold, but we got out in the sun afterwards. I was dry within a mile.
Okay. Yeah, and that didn't affect the obstacles too much. I know sometimes the placement of a water obstacle can really throw off like a grip obstacle if it's too close.
The trapeze was pretty close afterwards, and I was in an early wave, so I didn't have any trouble. But I didn't really hear anyone complaining about it.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Cool. All right. Your recommendation about doing all 5 events, is that still do you I know me and you have gone in the past, and sometimes you're like 3 or 4 events in, and you're like, oh man, this was not the right decision.
I'm a little better shape than the
Okay.
beginning, so it wasn't quite as bad. Still regret the decision on the charity event, but I do that every year.
Yeah.
This year the 100 meter they gave medals out to everybody, so that's kind of why I did it this year.
Oh,
So if
nice.
you're a collector, that's kind of a nice change.
I've
But
got a
if you're going to compete, I wouldn't really recommend doing them all though.
yeah, if you focus on what your strengths are and what you're um good at. I did write an article for OCRWC a couple of years ago that talked about that. Basically, like if you're going to compete, focus on what you make sure you get your best one out of the way first. But if your
Mm-hmm.
best one's early in the weekend, then you might as well. You already traveled and spent the money. You might as well enjoy the rest of the weekend and
Okay.
like do the 15K so you get to see all the obstacles and continue to do the other events just so you can earn some of that swag and get that experience because it's a very unique experience.
And I talked to Garfield. He says he's thinking about doing like a extra medal if you do all 5 for next year. So that's kind of insider thing.
Yeah. I got to get Garfield on the line. I've got a couple of really good ideas that I would like to see fruition come at OCRWC. One of them is I call it one band to rule them all, right? Playing
Oh,
Lord of the Rings, right? So like give a special golden band for anyone that keeps their band during all of the events.
that would be nice.
That is my selling point, right? Because you go there, you do the event, and you get your 3K, your 15K, you get your brand, your team band, right? And then you're like, well, which one do I wear? Do I wear them all? But it would be cooler if you got one band to show like, hey, I not only have the like strength and endurance to do all this, but I have the consistency, and I threw down all weekend. So
I like that.
Yeah, that's one of my good ideas. And like the cost of them producing a gold wristband is
Not
marginal.
nothing.
It's
Yeah.
nothing. It's like pennies, right? Um,
Oh yeah.
and if you really want to make it nice, you could do a metal one, right? Like I
Ooh.
know we have metal. We do a metal wristbands for a lot of like fallen heroes for the military. So that's an option too if they want to go a little fancier. But
Yeah. I like
I'll hit
that.
him. I'll hit him up offline. Try, try to make that happen. Uh, 2024 OCRWC heading back to the same location, correct?
Uh, that's the unofficial. It's right now just listed as California. I don't think they've got the contract nailed down, but it's supposed to be back in Mammoth.
Okay. I know there was again, anytime you move an event, people like to voice their opinion because it becomes very inconvenient for a group of people, but it suddenly becomes a lot more convenient for a different group. How was travel to the event, and kind of do you have any recommendations for anyone who's looking to head out there next year, assuming it's in
So I'd
Mammoth?
say, I'd say it's about the same as going to Vermont. I had to fly into Reno, so it's a 3 hour drive versus a 1 hour drive from Rutland, where I flew into, which is a much smaller airport, but it was easy to get to. The drive's very scenic, not a lot of traffic. The only traffic you get is in Reno. Um, Probably about the same price wise, probably a little more expensive flying in.
Yeah,
Hotels are about the same price on the at the village.
gotcha. All right. Anything else we missed for OCRWC that we you think we need to cover as far as like
There
the
was
go
a
for it?
lot of new people there. I think our 3K wedge, you said 50% had never been there before, so that was kind of nice to see.
Nice.
But overall, the numbers were low. So kind of like any OCR event, if people want to keep it around, they need to be sure to get out there next year. Because for one, it was a great event, and yeah, keep supporting the guys if you want to stay around.
Right. And I'll say the same thing I say about Tough Mudder. I say about now that Spartan owns both, right? The it is no longer their baby, right? So it is. I think it's easier to make cuts and adjustments when it's not your baby. It's just a business acquisition. So I think it's more important than ever to show support for brands like OCRWC or like World's Toughest or Toughest Mudder, right? Those events that may not have. I know like their toughest numbers were lower this year. And I think we're back up to two toughest on the calendar last time I checked. So
Yeah.
that's a good sign. But for a while I was getting worried that they were gonna drop it down to one, or maybe in like a couple of years if the numbers keep getting lower to, just replace it with infinity. So
Yeah.
let's see. Cool. Well, OCRWC sounds like a great event as always. Um, I think I'm supposed to be writing some articles for them in 2024, so keep an eye on their website. You should see some more of my content up there. I took the year off in 2023, but there should be more articles. And then if anyone wants to check out the OCRWC website again, I have a ton of articles up there on technique for obstacles and stuff like that, where I break down the individual obstacles and talked about things that methods you can use that even if you're not that obstacle is not specifically there, it's a lot of like principles that you can apply to other stuff. And then if you want even more technique, again, my book the new Strength and Speed Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing, available off Amazon in hard copy and digital, or off the website teamstrengthspeed.com. You can pick those up. So a lot of good tips in there.
Oh yeah. You write the best books.
I appreciate it. Well, I appreciate I've got a couple of friends who are always picking up the newest copy of everything. So I know you're one of them, and I do appreciate the support. It's great.
I missed out this year. You didn't have anything for World Championships this year.
Yeah. I was at an Army Combatives course, my last chance to take this one. So I prioritized that over OCRWC this year. So
Understandable.
yeah. We'll see about next year. All right, let's jump into your specialty and the bigger reason I have you on the podcast, which is Mythic Race. So we're entering our third year of Mythic Race. Give me a rundown on what's in store. Update the listeners on what's changed, etc. Let's start talking Mythic.
So first of all, we got a new venue. It's about I'd say 5 minutes from the raceway where we were at last time. Same owners, so they're familiar with us, but we don't have to compete for other events. I don't have to worry about my date getting moved or having to get in or out of the venue quickly, which is nice.
Nice. Is there more shade this year?
Yes.
Good.
Probably about I bet I got about 1 mile at least worth of running in the woods, and we got some open fields with the obstacles would be. So
Yeah.
it'll be a much cooler experience as far as
Nice.
temperature.
It wasn't even that hot last year. It was just early in the season, and my body hadn't been conditioned yet. And I remember being out there and being like, I'm not feeling too good. I did the 5 hour, the Mythic Race I went to last year.
Yeah,
So
we're doing 5 hour again as well.
okay, 5 hour and the elite heat and an open heat.
Yeah, for the 5K.
Gotcha. And then are we still doing team award? Are we still doing age
Yes.
group podium, all that stuff?
Yep. Yeah, the team trophy though won't be as big unless we get enough numbers. That was really expensive last year.
The team trophy is preposterous. So we'll have to post a picture of it.
Yeah, I got it on my Amazon cart. Wait, and I just gotta get a little more numbers.
Gotcha. All right. When is the race and where for people?
It's April 13th. It's in a very small village called Blodgett, Missouri. You'll probably travel into either Cape Girardeau or Sykeston. That's where you'll be staying at if you're traveling from out of the area.
And for the people who are coming in from like real far, would they fly into Cape Girardeau or they fly into like St. Louis and drive down? What's the
You can fly into Cape. So Cape goes in and out of Nashville. That would be the closest airport, and then Memphis and St. Louis would be about 2-ish hours away.
Okay, gotcha. Talk to me about your build crew and kind of what obstacles people can look forward to.
Okay, so I got the best build crew. Race Ready Obstacles. Aaron, he comes out and helps me and my dad build, which I couldn't do without him. So I owe him a lot because he kind of corrects all my mistakes of my designs. But he's got a lot of new stuff being built. I think I got 2 things I'm having to work on for this year. More technical obstacles, kind of inspired from stuff in Europe. So it'll be a nice new challenge for people. I don't think they've been here in the United States yet.
Yeah, I mean, you already have some of the most unique obstacles, not in just the Midwest, but across the nation. So like one of my favorite one from last year, Race Ready just posted a video of it a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. It's like the bar with the hexagon thing, and then you got to rotate the hexagon and it flips the bar over. What's that one called?
That'll be 6-axis. So the ending will change a little bit from last year. We call it the Race Ready rig last year because I followed their stuff on it.
Gotcha.
But we'll put into the more official original idea this year. So the ending will be a little tougher.
Gotcha. And then you had another rig that I thought was really cool because like 3/4 of the way through it, it was like a bunch of bars and you had to actually go under and then complete the rig.
Yeah, that will actually won't be making an appearance this year. It'll be something else.
Okay. I did like that one because I thought it was a cool way to like make the rig long, but also give people a break if they needed it. And it was surprisingly awkward to get underneath the bar.
Yeah. Yes, it's one of the tougher things of this area is trying to find the balance of difficult and more for the first timers because I think I'm the only obstacle racer in the area.
Yeah.
South of that I know of.
Talk to me about your mandatory completion policy / podium policy type thing.
So we're an obstacle race. So obstacle completion is the most important. So how we do it's kind of like how Indian Mud Run used to do it is you got your time, then you got your fails. So if you go run a clean race and it takes you 6 hours, you'll place higher than someone that fails once and they do it in 2 minutes. So you can never place lower than someone who's failed more than you.
All right. But if someone, let's say someone fails one obstacle, but everyone else failed 2 or more, is that one person who failed one obstacle still on the podium? Are they still win the race? Are they still on the podium?
Yep. So you can, you can podium with 1 fail. I think we only had 1 woman in the last 2 years get through completely clean. So that's why it's always worthwhile to keep trying. Even if you fail one, it's not all or nothing. It's 1 fail, 2 fail, 3 fail, etc. So it's always worth it to keep going, even if you have 1 or 2 fails.
I really like that, especially for people who may be newer to the sport and are a little like hesitant about jumping in on some of the more technical obstacles. I think it's a great way to bring them in and make sure the podium still is full at the end of the day, but also reward, like you said, reward the people who are obstacle course racing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It rewards that skill, which is what should be placed the highest value in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a trail race. We got plenty of those.
Right, right. What about the traverse? What do I call it? It was like a sketch traverse Z board. I don't even know. It's
So
hard.
we call that ice climber. It's basically the skitch hooks. So we got a section that's the Z wall with eye bolts for the hooks, section of skitch in the middle, and then another section of eye bolts.
That one was surprisingly hard. I remember when I did the 5 hour, the last couple laps, I think I failed the last two laps, if I remember correctly.
It's going to be a little different this year. So
And then your low rig was also it's always good. Low rigs are always awkward. That's although I feel like for low rigs I get better with successive laps because I figure out what my technique is as a general rule.
yeah, we'll be. I think I'll make that one a little harder this year, like a little too easy.
Okay. Okay. And then one of the other unique ones you had was the archery. Is that still there?
Oh yeah, that'll be there. I got enough spears to probably throw a spear throw in there too. Have two accuracy obstacles this year.
I don't like the spear throw, but okay.
I mean,
We're not designing the race for Evan, but people do like spear throws. So,
well, some guy gave me a couple more spears last year, so we'll play
oh
this.
man, did I shoot myself in the foot on this one?
Possibly.
Oh man, that's too bad. What else? Anything else I'm missing for Mythic Race?
We got a small pond on the property. It won't be swim depth, but we may be getting in about 3 foot deep of water near the end.
Okay. Gotcha.
Other than that,
Talk to me about where can people sign up, uh, pricing, any discounts you have that are coming up, etc.
so we're on Run Sign Up. If you just Google Run Sign Up Mythic Race, you'll find us. No active discounts at the moment, but prices increase at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That'll be our first increase, and then I think February is the final pricing. If you guys got a large group, like you got a corporate group or like your running team wants to come out, we can work out a large group discount. Just email us.
Gotcha. Sweet.
Then I think I posted the updated rules on the Run Sign Up page, so you can kind of get a sneak peek of some of the new obstacles descriptions there.
Nice. Nice. And then talk to me a little bit about your charity partner, the event.
So we're supporting Eagle Ridge Christian School again. It's the one we supported the last 2 years. It's a small private school here in Southeast Missouri. It's the one I went to. They're really doing a lot of good work. They work a lot in the community as well. But I'm excited about our new one, which is Restore the Wonder. It's a foster care camp for kids. Kind of give them, a week, the best week of their lives, pretty much the goal. Let them know that God still loves them, that adults out there still love them, want the best for them. Just give them a good time.
Yeah, great. Love it. Love all the work you're doing. I also love that. Again, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but you're one of the guys who you saw other races. There are things you liked about them, things you didn't like about them, and then you're like, I'm just gonna create my own. So it's just the way I want it, and I love that because it's just like I'm gonna be the own solution to the problem mentality. I love it. So I give you a lot of credit.
Besides St. Louis, which is 2 hours from me, the next closest real race is 6 hours. The front line up in Byron.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about your partnership with Hazelwood OCR, another one of our Midwest fan favorites.
Yeah, so we're coming together, kind of doing a 3-race series this year. They got their first race in March 23rd, it looks like. That's their shorter one. That's their kind of similar to the one they've been doing, the Massacre, but they changed it to, I think it's the Mosh this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're actually going to do a longer one. October 26th, that'll be the last race in our series. They're going to do a 5 mile, which is kind of a longer race for them and it's a new venue, so that'll be exciting.
Nice. Yeah, if you like obstacles, running that series, the 2 Hazelwood and the Mythic ones is probably the best decision you can make for legit obstacles in 2024. I mean, the obstacles are phenomenal. Like you go there, and then when you go to some other branch, you'll be like, we have. I don't know why I'm paying twice as much for half the number of obstacles and half the quality of the obstacles. So highly recommend going to Hazelwood. I highly recommend going to Mythic Race. I did one of Hazelwood's last year, and I did Mythic Race last year, and they were both phenomenal experiences. So
yeah, if you like good obstacles and probably the best bang for your buck.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All All right. What else? What else am I missing on Mythic Race?
For the series, we're doing an overall time for prize package. We're working with a couple of sponsors to get that together. So it'll be your overall time from the 3 races if you're trying to go for those podium prizes.
Nice. Nice. Good stuff.
We're going to try to do on-site camping this year for Mythic Race. The owners have a church camp property adjacent to the venue. They got cabins there, so we're working out to see if we can get those for you guys so you can actually be like 2 minutes from the start line.
Cool. Love it. Tell me a little bit more before we start wrapping things up. Tell me a little bit more about your personal plans outside of, because I mean, like we talked about, you're not only a race director, race owner, but you're also an athlete who competes. What are your plans for 2024?
Getting my schedule together. I'll be up at a bottomless snow race in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin in January for the first time, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, it's a fun event.
But it looks cold. I hate the cold, but it'll be fun.
It's actually once you start moving, you're fine, and there's no water typically on the course, so you put a couple layers on that are breathable, and be prepared to like strip off a couple layers if you get too warm, and pick up some beleg mitts, obviously, and from teamstrengthspeed.com, and you just keep moving. It's a super fun race. I did it in 2018, and I think the ending had there was a couple times I think there's like a inner tube thing where you essentially go sledding in the middle of the race for a little bit.
That's definitely fun.
I want to say I wore I brought Icebug shoes for that one, and I also bought like Merrill road race shoes and Yak tracks, and I want to say I wore the Yak tracks for that one. Yak track, essentially, if anyone's unfamiliar, it's essentially a rubber like X pattern that goes over a normal set of shoes, and on it has like what looks like a spring wrapping around the rubber thing, so essentially provides grip. So you can run with Yak tracks, you can like legit run on pure ice and still have good grip. So I thought I had a better grip with that than I did with the ice bugs at the time. So
they let you wear those there?
Yep, they let us wear Yak tracks there.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So unless they changed something in the last couple of years, they were legit in 2018. Have you used them before, Will?
No, I have not. We don't get that much snow over here.
Yeah, they are. I bought them and didn't use them for a couple of years, and then finally it snowed and it like iced one year, and I was like, I just got to test these things out, and I was floored by how well they work. Because you're being like super hesitant because you're not sure you're gonna have like good footing, and then you're like, oh no, I can run. I can like straight up run on this, and you're like just running down like pure ice roads. It's awesome. It's pretty cool. Watch out for cars though.
Oh yeah. And then I'm gonna go to the last Conquer the Gauntlet in September. They're
nice.
Wrapping up their career. Yeah. Say goodbye to them.
Yeah, I'm still unsure if I'm going or if I want to leave my last memory as a 4th place finish in the prize money with a decent race for myself. So we'll see.
I gotta get my band, so that's the goal for this year.
Yeah, I know a couple of people who have put it on their calendar specifically to try to beat Pegatron. So it is a rough one.
I got Pegatron on my second lap of a continuum, but not the first, so it didn't count for 100%. I was so mad. I got it once.
Okay. Did you do it when they had blocked out the second row of holes, or did you do it when it was still a full all the holes there?
I didn't know they did that, so I guess no.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to. The big tip for Pegatron is you're gonna have to stay high, because essentially halfway across the bottom set of holes. So I guess there's basically like 4 rows of holes about. The bottom 2 rows are completely blacked out about halfway across. Right. So no, it's not nice. And people, that's why that failure rate went back up. So people have to stay high on the pegboard and traverse via those top pegs. So just a little pro tip there. So I would practice. What I do for peg work is it's typically after a rest day. It is the first thing I do in the workout. And I do 1 set as far as I can go. And then I do about 3 to 4 more sets, again, as far as I can go, just working on getting as many movements I can. So the pegboard I have at work in the gym is pretty small. So it basically allows me to do 1 movement before I've reached the other side horizontally. And I just go back and forth, going right once, left once, right once without dropping. And then, until my group gives out, I fall, take 2 to 3 minutes or so. Try it again, try it again, etc. And then go about the rest of my workout, but kind of prioritizing that board work because that's typically the obstacle that gives a lot of people a lot of trouble. So
yeah, I think it's definitely one of the hardest in the whole industry.
Yeah, to me the Pegatron is the hardest obstacle in OCR. Yes, period. Can there be rigs that are harder? Yes. But rig as a generic term is sometimes easy, sometimes medium, and sometimes hard. So to me, as like a standard, quote unquote, standard-ish obstacle, to me, Pegatron is the hardest obstacle in OCR.
I'll see if I can come up with something harder than.
Sounds.
And then the biggest event I'm excited about is the Midwest OCR race in Illinois. You heard about that one?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I got to bring Aaron on. So yeah, tell people a little bit about that.
So race ready obstacles, which most people are kind of familiar with, they're actually going to make their own event. So all the race directors that have held Aaron back on difficulty aren't going to be around to keep him in check. So he's going to go crazy.
That should be a good one. I want to say that's September. Is that right?
Yeah, September 28th. It's at the old Dirt Runner course, if you're familiar with that.
Oh, that's a brutal course.
Yeah, and Aaron said they only use like quarter of the venue. He's going to use the whole thing. So it's going to be some new parts as well.
Nice. That's going to be great. Again, Aaron knows what he's doing. And then Dana, his wife, she actually reached out to me a couple of weeks ago asking my opinions on some of that stuff. Again, I probably will not, unfortunately, not make that event. But she was asking for my advice on some of the ultra OCR aspects because I think they're going to have a kind of like your race. They're going to have the 5K option or the couple mile option and then the ultra option.
Yeah, I think they got 10K open and competitive and then a multi-lap. I'm not sure how long.
That was
5K as well. I'm not sure.
That was one of the points of discussion. She was asking about length of like how many hours, how many laps I think I get in the suggested number of hours, and then was asking about obstacle completion rules and what's industry standard and what other people have done in the past and what are the perks and takeaways. So I shared my opinion, which I try to give good advice, not just here's the advice that would give Evan the best advantage. It's like, well, here's advice that I think would draw in the most number of people to sign up. But that's just what people have done. Here are examples of what people have done in the past and some positives and negatives of it, right? Like Frontline's ultra endurance is mandatory completion. You have to do every obstacle if you want to win. You can't penalty out of anything, which I think is a really cool concept. But I also think sometimes that limits the number of people who might sign up because there's some people who are like, well, I know I can't do some of these obstacles more than once. So yeah, there's a balance there. And then Conquer the Gauntlet has something in between, right? Where it's like most of the obstacles for the continuum when they were still doing it are mandatory, but there's like 4 or 5 where you could penalty out of just those specific obstacles, and then everything else is mandatory. So kind of a mix.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the event of the year, in my opinion.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. That's going to be good. We got some, there's every year some people are like, oh, well, OCR is dying. Well, there's some good events coming. I mean, you got Mythic Race, and then even in the Midwest, Mythic Race, Hazelwood, 2 events, Race Ready Obstacles event, right? And then as far as like national and international, right, we have OCRWC again, World's Toughest Mudder, obviously, in Florida this year, so probably somewhere near Orlando. And then we have the Saudi Arabia race. If you haven't been following that, I know Matt Davis on ORM just did another podcast about it, but largest prize purse in OCR history happened in Saudi Arabia at a Tough Mudder 8-hour Infinity. So
are you going?
Maybe I got to get it cleared through work and get some other stuff lined up. It's penciled into my calendar and I'm currently planning like I'm going, but we'll see if it actually pans out. So, and like I said on the podcast before, it will be super cool. Even if you're like, well, I'm not going to get into prize money, so what's the point of going? 1, visiting a foreign country is always cool. You get to experience a different culture. 2, to be able to say that you were at the start line running with some of the best ultra endurance OCR athletes in the world, and was at the event with the largest prize purse in OCR history is still pretty cool. So yeah. Any consideration of going, Will?
Oh, I wanted to. I can't afford to go. I bought a house this year, so it's limited to me.
That will do that. And you're running a race. Yeah, that is the race director. So yeah, those are both expensive
Yeah, I just
endeavors
got
there.
$4,000 of scaffolding came yesterday, so that took a big hit.
Yeah. What as a race director, like let's say someone else wants to put on their own race, what is your advice to them?
Know your why,
Okay.
because you're going to have a lot of times that you're going to question why you're doing it, whether it's the expenses. Even if you do it cheap, it's going to be expensive, or the stress of getting signups, or worried about your first build week. Know why you're doing it. For me, it's trying to help these organizations keeps me going.
Yeah.
Because it does weigh on the pocketbook and a little bit of stress here and there, but it's worth it.
What was something that you were like completely you felt blindsided by? Were you like, well, I was not expecting that, this would cost this much, or this would be one of my big problems, right? Because like I think people know, like, yes, getting signups is going to be tough. That's a challenge, but anything that you were like completely blindsided with, you thought?
A couple of things. One, I didn't realize how many people like to sign up like last minute.
Mm.
They probably 40% of my signups come within the last month, which kind of stresses you out when you're like, oh, no one's coming, and then last 3 or 4 weeks, everybody signs up. So I always sign up like the year before.
Yeah,
that surprised me.
Yeah, get those lowest prices, but people like to wait till the last minute. Yeah.
And then wood wasn't very expensive because I bought it during COVID.
Oh, geez.
But so it's a little better now, but everything's still expensive.
Yeah.
And t-shirts are surprisingly expensive. Their medals are like a third the cost of t-shirts.
That's so weird. And
I can get my t-shirt about 3 times the cost of a medal.
That's crazy. And I know the metal company you use, the same one I used for the OCR America buckles and some of the other buckles. And the quality is phenomenal, right? Like the Mythic Race medals, the regular 5K medals look super nice. The buckles were super nice. So, are you doing the ridiculous banner again for the champions?
Oh yes, yeah, definitely doing that.
That's one of my cool. I have several of my coolest prizes are specifically from the one event I did for you. I got a belt buckle. I have this. I don't know how big this thing is. 4 feet by 1.5 feet or something like that. Banner. It says champion with the giant Mythic Race logo hanging in my trophy room I'm sitting next to. And then the team race award is this like preposterously large dragon skull and sword. So, just lots of really cool swag in addition to being a great event.
We try to do it right.
You do. All right, we're gonna start wrapping it up. Before we get going, since we have Will on the podcast, we'll ask him, tell us something people would be surprised to know about you.
Okay, so like you said, I ran track in college. I was a sprinter. So back in 2016, I think it was, I took third at the USA Track and Field Indoor for 300 meters, which is about 32 seconds of running. And in 2021, I took third at the Spartan US Championships 10K, which is about 40 seconds. So I got 2 third place podiums, national championships from 300 meters to 10,000 meters.
Nice. I love it. I usually try to match something. I'm going to go with one. Well, I'm going to do 2 things. One, so I'm currently sitting at 96 OCR podiums. I'm trying to plan it so number 100 is Mythic Race. That is my goal. We will see if I can find a couple of events between now and April to line that up well, and then obviously have good enough performances, because I wanted to make it at an event that I, love, and I have friends there to kind of celebrate the moment. So that is my plan for that. And 2, I'm going to go on a little bit of tangent, jump way back to high school. I was which I think if you read my books, I was in a couple of musicals throughout high school and plays. I was in 6 musicals and 5 plays. And here's where I'm going off on a tangent. So are you familiar with the Hanging Munchkin from Wizard of Oz? Are you familiar with this? Okay, yeah. Right. So give people a quick explanation of like what your understanding of the story is.
So isn't like in the background of one of the scenes, one of the munchkins hung themselves from a tree and you can see them?
Yeah. So growing up, that's the story, right? And it's the scene where right after they meet the Tin Man and they're galloping off into the woods along the yellow brick road there. So in the background, there is, and I remember watching this on VHS, there's something swinging on a rope. Is it a person? Is it a sandbag? Is it another prop? I don't know. Yeah, obviously they say it's not a person because they say we wouldn't have left something like that in the film. And, that's not something obviously they want to talk about if someone actually did in fact kill themselves on set. So I was always like, oh yeah, it's just a hanging prop or something. Side note, when I was in the musical in high school, someone took a troll, one of those little troll dolls, and put him on a noose and swung him down from one of the trees because they had like talking trees at that part. So I was watching the movie with my daughter this weekend, and we're watching like the remastered edition, and I'm like, oh, let me see if I can see the hanging dude on the remastered edition, and I go in. And it is definitely not something hanging. It is definitely like a giant bird. It's like this giant, like emu looking thing. And it's like flapping its wings. And I was like, what? So then I go down the rabbit hole of the internet and I start researching stuff on YouTube. And they're showing the two footage, like the 1989 one that everyone has the swinging thing. And then the giant bird one on the remastered one. And then like you look into the comments and people are arguing over which is the original version. You go down the rabbit hole real quick, and there's a lot of crazy claims. And then people are like, no, the hanging one was edited by people as a joke. And it's like, well, it was edited by people in 1989? It gets really confusing. If anyone wants to deep dive into the hanging munchkin, the suicide munchkin, feel free to and hit me back up. I was going to go a little bit deeper and quickly realized how crazy stuff was getting, and then it got upset when I started looking at comments, and they're like, no, this was clearly edited by someone on YouTube. It's like YouTube wasn't around in the 80s, guys. Nope. It wasn't around in the 90s, and I 100% remember watching the hanging, the swinging, I'm going to call it the swinging object in the background when I was in high school, because I was in the Wizard of Oz twice, once in elementary school and once in high school. So we watched that movie a whole bunch, and we specifically remember that was like a big talking point of the thing. So anyway, very, very obscure tangent there. All right, final shout out you want to give: friends, family, sponsors, etc.
We'll give a shout out again to Race Ready Obstacles. If anybody races any race, their holds are the same ones that they make for everybody. So if you want to train with what you're going to race on, definitely check them out. They're locally owned, veteran owned, and great people to deal with. So I highly recommend checking them out for all your training gear.
I'll second that. I'm going to give go for it.
I just want to give a shout out to Julie over at Phoenix Race. She helped me get my race up and going. She designed our logos and our first couple of medals. They host some great races down in the South, so be sure to check them out as well.
And she's also working for Legendborn. Is that correct?
Yes. So she's designed a lot of the cool jerseys you all see.
Yeah. So I funny, I'd emailed Legendborn for something, and she responded, and I was like, you work for Legendborn? It's like, oh, cool. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Obstacle Running Adventures. So Mike from Obstacle Running Adventures sent me a clip of the Accountability Corner podcast. It's a podcast in the UK by a couple of British guys who run OCRs. Seem pretty good. And one of them made a joke about writing a book, and then one of the other ones was like, there are books on obstacle course racing. And they got like, really? And then this dude over in the UK had my book, and he referenced it and said it was pretty good, which I appreciate the compliment. And Mike is the one who had sent me that clip over to me. So I appreciate the work he's doing and giving me a shout out and sharing those clips. And then I'm also going to give a shout out to you. If anyone has watched the Ultra OCR Man documentary, day 7 was at your property, which is not Mythic Race. It's just that's your property and some of the obstacles you had built at your house at the time. So you can check that out. I think you're in the background of a couple shots. I don't think we got any good close-ups of you, though.
That's probably good for you.
So I appreciate all the support you've given over the years for some of my charity events and some of the other work you've done as far as strength and speed goes, and helping build OCR as a company and as a brand across the U.S. And then if anyone, again, Christmas coming right around the corner, got books all over the website, teamstrengthspeed.com. It's a newly designed website. It's got a fighting section. It's got a Christianity section, or faith section rather, which I'm slowly building out. You'll see more of that, a lot of the fighting and Christianity content coming at a later date. So it's got a lot of things in the work that I'm working on, but head out and check over the new teamstrengthspeed.com website. Pick up some books as gifts. They're a great gift. And then obviously Bleg Mitts, another very popular gift. And then my other suggestion, this is one of my favorite suggestions for gifts, is buy someone a race entry, like buy them a Mythic Race entry. And, or if you're an athlete and you want to get a gift from someone that's a race entry, you put the cost of the race entry, and then you have essentially that person becomes your sponsor for that event, right? So when they pay for that, you mark it down on your calendar. All right. Aunt whatever bought me this race entry or whatever. And then when you go to the race, you send them pictures and results from the race. So it's like they're getting something in return in addition to giving their Christmas present. That's one of my recommendations for Christmas. If you don't know what to buy people, because I know a lot of people have too much stuff and they're looking for experiences over stuff at this point. So, yeah. All right. Anything else before we get going, Will?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right. Sounds good. I will see you in early 2024 at latest. Probably see you at Hazelwood, the first one.
Yep.
And Mythic Race. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Later.